So Bevan Cellars we've always tried to deliver world-class quality, and when the wines haven't given us world-class quality, we just haven't made them. And I think back to 2020, Bevan Cellars declassified everything. We've always, from day one, dedicated ourselves to producing excellence. And in that light, we're now introducing our 2022 vintage, which is going to be 3 wines. And because we weren't going to bottle anything that wasn't absolutely spectacular, because we take everything we send to you and every order you give us so seriously, I wasn't going to give you a wine that has my grandmother's name on it, that says Bevan Cellars, that wasn't worthy of your investment in what Bevan Cellars stands for qualitatively in my mind, and in the level of execution that Mitchell and our whole winemaking team puts into it. With that said, we have 3 wines this year. We have a pure Cabernet Franc, because the Cabernet Franc from Sugarloaf has great intensity and purity. And the heat issues that plague most of Napa didn't have nearly as much of an impact in the southern part of the valley where Sugarloaf is at. We have a Dr. Crane. Dr. Crane is one of those special vineyards. It's used to the heat. It took the heat and it gave us a wine that's worthy of Dr. Crane. And then all of the other vineyard designates were put together when I blended Ontogeny. And could I have made a Sentinel Ridge? Yes, because the Howell Mountain cool air and breezes made Sentinel Ridge fine. Could I have made a Calixtro? Yes. Tench Block 1B has such great acidity that the heat didn't damage it. We could have made vineyard designates, but it would have taken away from Ontogeny. And Ontogeny is the train that could. It is our gateway drug. It's the wine that lets everything else go. And when I put it together without blending in the vineyard designates, it just wasn't what I want Ontogeny to be. So Victoria and I had a couple of very difficult meetings looking at the economics. Our lineup, what we're bringing to you, are 3 world-class wines. It wasn't fun, it was incredibly difficult, and we're looking for your support to buy these wines. We hope that you have the faith in us after not producing 2020, after limited 2017s. We've always done everything we could do to protect your investment in wine and your investment in Bevan Cellars. And I believe these wines are as good as everything we've ever made. I'm incredibly excited for everybody to get to taste them. And with that, Theo, let's introduce our 2022s. The first wine we're going to talk about is Ontogeny. And no Ontogeny's ever had as many big boy blocks as this in Ontogeny. It always includes Tench, it always includes Wildfoot, it always includes Sugarloaf. It gets all of our big boy vineyards. This year only got the best of all of those blocks. We ended up bulking out well over half of our total 2022 production in a crazy economic kit to make sure that all we have is excellence. And so this year we technically could have bottled Ontogeny as Cabernet Sauvignon. It is over 75% Cabernet. And Theo, I think this year all of that Cabernet manifests itself in a really pure blueberry, black cherry, blackberry flavor profile. How would you describe this Ontogeny?
This is exactly the fruit profile that I was going to say. Blackberries, dark blueberries. There's a little plum note to it, which is really interesting, but it's really, really, really luscious. The texture of it already is so incredibly mouth-filling and plush and beautiful. I'm digging it. My first reaction was, wow, you saw it.
It has a little less Petit Verdot than other years, and so I don't know that it has the same iron ferrous-like quality. It's not as meaty as some of the others, but it has a higher purity of fruit. This is the Ontogeny for Cabernet lovers. If you're somebody who loves the Tench Vineyard Cab, this almost tastes like some of our better vintages of Tench Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon.
It's definitely going to satisfy the Cabernet people. It's really, really a beautifully, beautifully blended wine. The color is incredible, dark and rich. The tannin is already, I mean, just really firm and there, but supple and silky on the finish,
Yeah.
which is your.
It doesn't punch you. It gives you a love tap and then a firm hug. But no, classic Ontogeny, fabulous textures. In this year with a higher level of purity of fruit. This is a Cabernet drinker's Ontogeny. This is a big wine that'll age for a decade. And this is what we're aspiring to bring for you in 22. I love this wine.
I've been tasting the Ontogeny since that first time that I got that wine into the store in Palm Beach, and that's when I met you back in 2010. And I believe it was the 08 that I had the first time, maybe the 07, I don't know, maybe 08. And this is my top 3 Ontogenys I've ever tasted.
Yeah, this is going to be a
Already.
special wine.
Pretty amazing.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cabernet Franc. Everybody that's been a long-time customer of Bevan Cellars knows how enamored Victoria and I have been with Cabernet Franc from day one. And that disease is spread. Mitchell feels that way. Theo feels that way. We are Cabernet Franc junkies. And the Merlot from Sugarloaf in 2022 just didn't have the richness that we love in the Sugarloaf proprietary red. While the Merlot wasn't as fabulous as it should have been, the Franc is stunning. And so we decided we'd put together a couple barrels. The Franc was so good we had to have it in Ontogeny, but we would just take out a couple barrels to make about 100 cases just for the people who love Franc, because this is such a singular, fabulous expression of Cabernet Franc. And most people think Cabernet Franc, I'm going to be tasting all of these green, pyrazine-like flavors. This is a wine where the Franc manifests itself in lavender, flowers, and tobacco. It's a very sophisticated aromatic profile. It's got a core of dark red and blue fruits, but its complexity is what makes it so singular and spectacular. And then on the palate, it's got mouth-watering acidity. This wine wants to be consumed with something hearty. This wants a hunk of cow. It wants something that's juicy, and it's going to absolutely eat that acid up and expand the flavors on the palate. When you taste this wine, Thea, what does it speak to you? What does this wine say to you?
So for me, I mean, I'm getting that beautiful fruit right up front, the lavender in the nose, absolutely, and a little bit of that sassafras note, which is really cool. And on the palate, that rich, plush, beautiful, but it's very mouthwatering. It's very bright, very, very bright. A little bit of spice, gorgeous firm tannin.
I was going to say,
for me, I would throw a rack of lamb on the grill and just have a beautiful rack of lamb with this wine. The acidity in it is going to cut through that fat and just enhance the beautiful earthy characteristic of the lamb. It would be just perfect.
It has an integrity of texture. The tannin on this wine is firm on the back, but the acid balances it out perfectly. It has the weight and the grip to age very, very well, but it's a serious wine. There's nothing frivolous about this. There's been vintages where we've had a couple of cabs that have been all energy and expression and love. This is dense and serious. This wine makes a statement about the varietal. It's not just fun. This explains Cabernet Franc. If you open this bottle for people who don't know Franc and say, this is the core of Cabernet Franc, you're going to be educating them about this varietal, because this is pure Cabernet Franc.
It's beautiful. How high up is this block vessel on Sugarloaf?
Well, it's block 9, and block 9 is the only block with red soil on the whole property.
Really?
Everything else is all decomposed granite. Block 9 is red dirt. and it's a very steep slope, and the wind hits this and blows straight through the vines. So this is always our last pick. 2 dogs and Block 9 Cabernet Franc, and we can let it hang forever. It never gets overripe, it never loses its acid. And because it's on that steep slope and it gets all that perfect airflow coming straight from San Pablo Bay, it just hangs and hangs on the vines. Yeah. And it's what makes Cab Franc so magical. Long hang time and great intensity.
And it's beautiful. And it's been a long time, since 2018, since you made a Cab Franc for Bevan Cellars.
And so this qualitatively
very exciting.
Is right there with the best we've ever made.
Excellent. Cheers.
Cheers. Dr. Crane.
Dr. Crane.
Okay. When you think of 18, 19, 21 Dr. Cranes, what in your mind makes Dr. Crane so singular and unique for you?
I think our Dr. Crane, 18, 19, and 21, all 3 of them, the one thing that they had in common was this seamless, beautiful balance. Absolutely structurally perfect.
I wasn't going there, but home run, boom, okay. You're right, the textures of Dr. Crane are singular. The wine feels different. Mm-hmm. Robert Parker always said the best wines from Dr. Crane reminded him of Haut-Brion. When Andy Beckstoffer called and asked if we wanted to work with Dr. Crane, I was like, oh my God, yes, because the 89 Haut-Brion is so important to me. Flavor-wise, what does Dr. Crane mean to you? What is the commonality of the flavor profile of Dr. Crane?
Black fruits, which is very typical of this beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon, but also because we let our fruit ripen so nicely, I think we get so many blue notes in the wine as well. It has a lot of deep, rich blueberry tones in both the nose and on the palate.
I think there's a spice to it, and I think there's a dried herb quality to it as well. It's not vegetative, but it's like really, really good dried herbs. Like if you're rubbing down a prime rib or something and you get really good herbs de Provence. It
like an HDP.
Has that kind of secondary flavor profile. For me,
layers of flavor too.
Yeah. For me, Dr. Crane is seamless textures. It is so silky, smooth, and polished. Then it's complexity of aromatics, and then beautiful fruit profile on the palate intake that then gives way to all of these other flavors. It's such a unique, singular wine, and thank God in 2022 we could make one. We made 125 cases. There's so little bit of it, but what we have is fabulous. People deserve to taste this. These barrels deserve to be bottled and for it to be its own child.
I think the 22 Crane continues the legacy that Bevan Cellars has really created with this particular vineyard since 2018. Again, you've created a beautiful, seamless, impeccably balanced wine with just loads of fruit, nuances of flavor, layers of flavor, and an outstanding Dr. Crane.
And the sexiest legs. It just cascades and sheets down the stem. As always, we wouldn't bring you a Dr. Crane unless it was worthy of the name Dr. Crane.
Cheers.